100 on the end or bell? MEQ. Yeah, it is 100 because now it's unconnected, so it's not L. Okay.
Hi, how are you? Good. A long one. I said small group ticket. Well, small group. Yeah. We'll pick everybody up. I'm just in the darkness, but I don't be able to see the screen or not.
Yeah.
That's better?
Yeah.
Jill, can you hear me?
Yes, but I'm muted.
Okay, because I can still hear you. So the room isn't muted.
I guess I don't know how to do that because it's not working from my computer.
Yeah, I think it would be the microphones.
Hello, hello.
But it's also, I mean, I think it's fine to leave the sound on as long as everyone is aware that it is live streaming currently. So.
Okay, are we on? And can anybody hear me?
Hi, Bob. I can hear you.
Oh.
I think Jill has the room muted until the meeting starts, so it's just not.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I've been getting all kinds of strange messages that my speakers don't work. So that's why I'm going with the headphones. I don't know what I've done wrong. All of these computerized things are a mystery to me, but thank you. And heaven only knows what the AI features are doing to this thing now.
Right.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Bert.
Hey, Bert.
Uh, we have enough to make quorum yet?
Not yet.
Oh, sorry, Bert, I didn't get back to you.
That's okay. I was just trying
You
to.
want to caucus now for before the meeting? Are you going to the general meeting tomorrow?
I'm in Baltimore right now,
You're still
so
down there. Okay.
I'm trying to get. Yeah, we're trying to get our house on the. Well, it's on the market. We got to get it sold and packed, so we can get back to Maine.
Gotcha. A lot of work. I appreciate your posts about it and stuff too.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Special welcome to our friends from the archives again.
Yeah, is this part of your job description now, Greg? You have to show up to all these Christian. Yeah.
Other duties is assigned.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's a big category.
I think we're all just hopeful that we can get the MOU put to bed. And
Agreed.
I know we have people in the archive staff that are really looking forward to meeting up with Jill and hopefully getting some stuff organized and do that over the summer. I know Jill was kind of anxious to do that while the weather was nice, although I have yet to see any extended period of nice weather. So just any day now would be
Gonna-
fine.
I'm in one of my research groups. They're counting the 11 or 12 Saturdays in a row with rain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get a bunch of researchers on a call. They'll start counting things. So
Well, it's 90 degrees here in Baltimore.
Oh, God. Sounds
Yeah,
awful.
tell me about it. And I'm not close to the water where I need to be.
We went up to, me and my buddies went up to Western Quebec to paddle the Mexican River. And we had to, this is a couple of weeks ago, it was in early May. And normally up in that neck of the woods, the ice is gone usually by the 5th of May, something like that. And we got up there on the 4th, and we took the freight train into our put-in, dragged our boats about half a mile to the lake where we were going to start, and the whole thing was frozen. Just ice for as far as we could see. And we sat there for 3 days waiting for it to thaw. We finally got enough where we could kind of chop our way through. We did that for 3 days, and we got to another lake that was completely frozen. It was just, and then we get here and it's nothing but rain. Anyway, the weather. What can you do?
Rachel, are you there?
Yes,
Can you hear the room now, I presume?
yes, I can. Do we have quorum? I just couldn't see if Sam's in the room yet.
Yes,
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so I think we do have quorum then.
he's fighting.
I think there's 100 as best I can.
So, Noel, do you wanna?
Yeah. Ready to roll? Yeah, open with that honor to our creator. Lewen Nigisiawaskaman, Camille and Francisca from Oxford. I got Camille and Edu Jiwulin and Walk. Can we go there good? Elivita's escape coming. Would you come in Nigisiawaskaman? City when Gazelmanen, I got a great would you come on in? I mean, we'd hum on you good now. Tell me, you can yell with it. I'm going to put go about it. Lewen Nigisiawaskaman. Oh. Okay, welcome to MITSC meeting, June 6th, starting at 10:10. And,
One more set of materials.
okay, and I believe we have quorum, yes? Dr. Rankle?
I think so.
Robert and Bob,
Here?
morning.
living. So everybody have a chance to look over the agenda and have any changes, updates, or additions? Or subtractions?
Sorry, Noel, could you do like a roll call or?
Oh, sure, I could do that.
Just-
We'll start with MITSC representatives, since that's where we are. Ezekiel.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Zeke McDonald. I am one of the tribal commissioners for Udan Mouse Indians, and welcome to Williswood territory.
Good. Sam.
Sam St. John, Water Resources Technician for the whole Bend Mouse Indians. Yeah, welcome to the meeting.
And we'll stay in the room for now. We'll go with Passamaquoddy Township.
Joey Barnes represents Union Township, last 45.
State commissioners.
Nels Kramer.
Okay, and online, another state commissioner. Robert.
Bob Checkaway, state appointee in Freeport.
And our Penobscot reps are online as well. Dr. Rego?
Yep. Willis Spearsway. Good morning, everyone. Darren Ranko. I'm a Penobscot Nation representative to the commission, joining you from a place in Dedham, Maine we call Neheme Benage, or Turkey Hill.
Nice. Robert?
Oh, Willis Busway, G. Willie one, all of you. Bert Pulchis, one of the other commissioner representing the Penobscot Nation. G. Willie one to everybody that's here and for the meeting, those that are a part of the meeting as well as those that are viewing. G. Willie one.
Very well. Rena?
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rena Newell, and I'm a Passamaquoddy tribal citizen representing Survive.
And then we'll continue online again with the other four. Rachel?
Hi, I'm Rachel Bell. I'm the projects coordinator with MITSC.
And others, I don't know where they're from.
Oh, Ralph. Ralph.
Pardon?
Ralph Kamek is from.
Oh, Ralph, I know Ralph. The other ones.
Hey, everyone. Nice to see you all again. Ralph Kamek from Wabanaki Public Health and Wellness. Thanks for having me.
Hello, Ralph.
Deputy Secretary of State, Christian.
Hi, I'm Christian Coates. I'm from the Maine Archives, soon to be, I was nominated last week to be the state archivist. I have to go through my confirmation hearing next week.
Good luck.
Calling from South Bristol.
And then Greg Curtis from the Folger Library.
Hi, Greg Curtis from, I head up special collections here at Vogel Library, University of Maine.
And is that it? There's everyone more. That's it. And then we also have
Katie Donlin, grad student at the University of Colorado Boulder.
Hi, Katie.
and we also have
Jill Tompkins. Jill Tompkins, Penobscot Nation tribal citizen, executive director, MITSC.
great, thank you. Thank you all. It looks like we have one.
Rachel. Do you want Rachel to introduce herself?
I thought she did. She did.
Oh, she did. Oh, sorry.
Did you?
I did.
I think I picked on her first.
Okay, sorry, I was taking notes.
All right, so let's look at the review of the minutes for January 6th.
Actually, no,
Yeah.
Ralph had a request that he go a little early as another meeting.
Oh,
Needs to go
okay.
to.
So that's a change then to the agenda.
Yeah, it would be a change.
Okay.
Is that correct, Ralph? Do you still need to go?
Yeah, that would be awesome, but also don't want to cause a fuss either. So whatever works.
We'll give you some special consideration, Ralph.
Thank you.
Take it away then.
All right. So my name is Ralph Kamek. For anyone that doesn't know me, I serve as the Director of Research for Wabanaki Public Health and Wellness. I'm a Wastawig tribal citizen. My family comes from Belichick, and I'm in the South Portland area. And I'm here today to talk to you all about the results from our survey that we ran to help inform the creation of the curriculum to start to educate state employees around, I believe, some of, I don't know, Jill, Rachel, if you want to jump in and mention a little bit more about what the actual training curriculum and courses are going to be, but essentially creation of modules to help train state employees around our tribal nations. So I'm here to share some of the results. I'm hoping you all can see this, okay?
Yep.
Perfect. So we had, we ran the survey for about a month, and we had 327 state employees complete the survey, 36 tribal citizens complete the survey, mostly from our spring social that we ran. And so I'm just going to give you a preliminary summary of all the responses and what we found, which will help inform the creation of our modules for the state employees. And so I'm going to start with our state responses, and then I'll go into the tribal responses. But I wanted to start with the state and show that most folks came from Augusta or what town they live in, followed up by Portland, Brunswick, Hallowell. There was quite a variety of responses for this one, but Augusta certainly being the number one response. Now, if any of these slides are a little too small, just let me know. I can zoom in too, because I'm not sure what the text is coming through shared. So just let me know. Or if anyone has any questions, feel free to just jump right in and ask. So as far
It's in the material.
Oh, sorry, go
We
ahead.
have printed copies of the materials.
Oh, perfect. Wonderful. Oh, that's great. So you guys can follow up there too. I just pulled them out into a PowerPoint, but this is essentially a summary from what you guys have for printed materials as well. So most of the state employees that were surveyed did not live in Maine their entire life. Most had some level of interaction with Wabanaki people, 60% overall. As far as which state government they were from, and this is actually a mistake, I believe, too. So ignore that. Most were from the Department of Marine Resources. Department of Labor was a follow-up, and then Bureau of Motor Vehicles. So that was our top three responses, with several others coming from Secretary of State, Department of Health and Human Services, Public Utilities, and so on. But mostly biggest response rate from the Department of Marine Resources. Now, this was an interesting one because awareness for the Settlement Claim Act, and it was a straight 50-50 between those two. And then whether or not they could name the 4 federally recognized tribes located in Maine, it was close to 50-50, but 52% said no. They could not name the 4 federally recognized tribes. When it comes to state tribal relations, we asked them to essentially rate their knowledge, whether or not they had, moderate, extensive, or limited, or had not the opportunity to gain that knowledge related to tribal and state relations. Most folks said they had limited knowledge or had not had the opportunity. Only 9 of the 300 some odd responses had extensive knowledge, and moderate knowledge was at 56 responses. Experience with working with tribal people. So again, most had some limited knowledge and experience working with tribal folks. Another second was had not the opportunity to gain the knowledge, and then moderate knowledge being 55 and extensive being 2 out of 300 some odd responses. So the knowledge around tribal laws. So this one also was interesting. Most people had not the opportunity to gain that knowledge, but there was limited knowledge listed as number 2, and then moderate and then extensive knowledge for the state employees. Knowledge of tribal history. Most folks had limited knowledge. Most had not had the opportunity to gain it. Again, moderate and then extensive. Experience working with tribal governments. So most of our state workers that filled this survey had no experience, and then limited, and then moderate, extensive experience. And so, all of these questions really were gauging, what the knowledge was. And so we did go into some other questions around sort of challenges and how they would like to be presented this information through the modules, which I'll go into in a minute. But when asked if they've encountered any challenges in interactions with tribal governments, most had not the opportunity to interact, which kind of reflects back around the question we just saw with limited knowledge and experience. And then no, and then there was 22 had showed some level of challenges. So this was another interesting one, which I think reflects a little bit on the need here for some level of education or modules designed around this. But do you feel they have necessary supports, knowledge, and access to engage appropriately with tribal government? So most 68% listed no, they did not. And a follow-up to that was when asked about what topics they would like to learn about. The top 3 topics were tribal culture, tribal state relations, and then tribal traditions, customs, and ways of being. And those were our top 3 there. When asked how they wanted to learn this information, this one was also pretty interesting in the responses. Was most folks felt visits to communities would help the most. In-person training sessions came second, and then interactive workshops. In my mind, those kind of 2 both play together pretty well as potentially for that that first topic. Some folks did list online modules and video content. And so that was our top 3. The next set of slides are more related to the tribal community. So this was our tribal responses. So again, most of our responses came from our social that Wabanaki Public Health and Wellness puts on each year. So there was quite a few folks that from the Penobscot Nation. So that was definitely our biggest response here. Most people that filled out the survey that we had for tribal citizens did have some level of experience with staff from Maine state governments. And the reason we also wanted to get some tribal perspective on here was we wanted to hear what they felt state employees needed to learn and sort of what the experiences were there. So when asked what their experience with how would you rate your experience with government agencies? Most people did put somewhat positive, but there was quite a few that felt neutral. And then the negative category, 5 total had negative experiences. When asked about the knowledge that a staff person from the state should have when they work with Wabanaki clients or groups in a appropriate manner, tribal sovereignty was the number 1. Tribal traditions, customs, and ways of being were number 2, and then tribal state relations were number 3. So there was a lot of variety of categories here that they felt that they should have some experience in working with our people, but tribal sovereignty being definitely the number 1 response there. When asked about what skills staff person needs to have to work with Wabanaki people, ability to work with diverse groups was number 1. Holding deep respect for difference, and ability to listen, which I also thought kind of connected with some of down here. There's some patience, ability to center culture, comfortable with silence, which another big one, and willing to consult with traditional Wabanaki folks. Then also asked, what does a respectful government to government relationship look like? Our tribal citizens listed pretty overwhelmingly recognizes tribal sovereignty as our number 1 response here. Understands each tribal nation's uniqueness. So that's also sort of, the understanding of not being a monolith and having differences within our communities, and then proactively collaborates. So what specific areas, procedures, or processes of the Maine state government would you like to learn more about? So this again from our tribal citizens that answered this question. So number 1 was the relationship between federal governments and federal and state governments. Number 2 was the court interpretations of the Settlement Act. And number 3 was regulation of natural resources. So those were our top 3 responses. Down here, there was a few sort of varieties. So separation of powers, budget process, role of Attorney General. There was some qualitative questions asked that I didn't put in here, but I'm sure they're in the report. If anyone would like a more detailed analysis of what the qualitative and narrative sections, we will be putting that together as well. That one just takes a little bit longer to get together, but really wanted to give you some level of information here today that will help inform the creation of sort of these educational series that we've been working with Jill and Rachel on. And that kind of sums up sort of what we found with our surveys. Again, I think one of the biggest takeaways from my perspective is really looking at how folks wanted to have the information presented to them and on what topics. And it was pretty, I think, opening in my mind to see, number 1, a lot of folks are unable to name the tribal nations that exist in our state. And then also they're more apt to want to either visit Wabanaki territory as part of the training or have some in-person sessions or interactive sessions. So that was our findings. I don't know if there's any questions or anything I can answer. Again, happy to provide more extensive analysis over time too. We are going through the qualitative sections to kind of pull out themes to be able to provide that as well, but wanted to at least give some more of the descriptive statistics that we found through the survey. And we did get over 300 responses from the state, which I think is a really good sort of end value for these findings. So I'll just open it up to anyone that might have questions or perhaps anything else. Jill, if you want me to talk about, or yeah.
Oh, thank you, Ralph. I have a couple of questions. So you highlighted a couple of things that I kind of like, the ones that stuck out, right? Like not knowing the tribal nations within the state of Maine. You know, that's been, I would say that's been throughout recent history, you know, like 50 years. That's been, I think, par for the course in terms of like people knowing who we are and where we are. And you know, back in 2001 with the institution of the LD 291 law that never was effective, that, you know, that was one of the goals, was to educate others in the state to who and what we are. And but my question is, so you highlighted those in your last comments there, but were there other things that you pulled out, and we didn't get to the qualitative ones, but will we get a summary of those as well?
For the narrative responses, Newell? Sorry, I couldn't hear one section there.
Yes.
Yes, yep. And we do have some of that in your initial report, that the printed. I didn't put them on the slide because they don't translate well to slides, but we do want to put a thematic analysis together for you all so that you can see a little bit more of the themes, but wanted to get at least something on paper to review with the descriptive side of things. But there were some, I think, relevant things that people wrote down and listed. And some of it, again, is present in the report that's printed out for you all, but I think there's a few more things that my team can unpack. It just takes a little bit longer to kind of work through all of the individual responses that we received that were written out.
Right, so there's more analysis coming, I guess.
Yes, yep. Nothing, mostly just for the qualitative information, though. Nothing for more. This actually covers all of the questions that had more of the clear cut, like, do you have knowledge? You know, where do you come from? What do you want to learn about, and how do you want to learn it? That will all still be the same. But there was some, especially in our tribal responses, that we want to pull out and take a closer look at.
All right, well, thank you, and I'm not sure if anyone else. Sam? Ezekiel?
Nothing for me though. Thank you for this. This is great.
Joseph? Rena?
I mean, I might have missed it. What's the next steps following this?
Did you hear the question?
Yeah. And our next steps is to kind of, so this was really to inform the creation. The next steps are to create the actual education training series. And so that will be kind of the next one that goes to the state employees. But we wanted to get this done to see, you know, really number one, you know, how is that information, should it be presented? And number two, what should be presented to provide a level of education that, you know, is meaningful, both from Wabanaki people as well as the state employees. So the next step is definitely beginning work on that, which I believe we were targeting for a fall rollout, if I remember correctly. So that would be the next step.
And no? No questions. Robert, check away.
No, thank you very much. That's interesting.
Okay. Darren, looked like he came online to see that question.
Oh, no, I just wanted to thank Ralph. I work with him on some other stuff too. Yeah, I think I like this approach. I would just keep us updated, I think would be really, I mean, I think just the communication will be good, and sort of how the communities are being involved as we go forward. You know, it sounds like you're kind of planning for all that. So yeah, this is good.
Perfect. Yeah, and happy once things get rolling to join back another meeting in the future too. If we'd like to hear any more, or if you want me to present on data again, I know you get to listen to me talk for 20 minutes. I'm sure that was super exciting, but I'm happy to join whenever you guys would like me.
Always a highlight.
I don't know if I go there, Newell, but I try.
And is Bob on? Bert Belichick, Bert, I mean, sorry.
Bert had to log off for a bit. Yeah.
And anyone else? Jill?
Just a few points. I know it looked like it was heavily skewed toward Penobscot, but we actually did send the survey to tribal administration and asked them to circulate it to the employees. I don't know if you saw that or not. And I know it went to the chiefs, and I was thinking, well, you need to really know who does the carrying out of things for the chief. So there's somebody within Chief Francis's office who circulates things. So there's still that opportunity, but we did try to reach out and get more of a cross section. And then Rachel, there's a couple of videos coming out because we actually just did a table down at the working waterfront last Saturday. And we have now on our table have a little quiz. And it's basically, can you name the 4 tribes and where they're located and what makes the tribes in Maine different from tribes in the rest of the country. And so it was 4 questions. And I don't think anybody got them all right. And people were really stuck right at the beginning. So I think this was really helpful to get an understanding of how basic the information is that needs to be delivered. Whereas, I'm working on the team, we figured, oh, well, everybody's starting here. I was like, no, you need to back it down a little bit. So, so I thought it was helpful. And then Rachel has been working on tributaries videos that kind of address some of this. Do you want to talk about that? The 2 that are coming out, I guess.
Sure. We launched the first one, which is just a brief introduction to MITSC video. So you can find that on the homepage of the website or under tributaries. And then we're currently working on a timeline of the history leading up to the settlement, like from point of first contact to the settlement, that provides context. And then the third one is really about the settlement itself. So hopefully, it seems like it's easier these days for people to watch short videos to learn things than it is necessarily to read documents. So we're hoping, yeah, that this will be an opportunity to just increase people's education.
So those could be pieces of the curriculum already. So
I had a little stress test, right then. I thought we were gonna get a quiz.
Oh yeah, I can give it to you.
Anyone else have questions for Mr. Kamick? Nope. Any closing comments, Ralph? Are you all good?
I'm good. No, well, I want everyone for letting me come and present again. Appreciate you all. And again, happy to provide more in the future. If there's any questions that come up later, feel free to reach out to me. I know if you don't have my contact, Jill, I'm sure can provide it. And happy to join again in the future. But it's great to see a lot of familiar faces and happy to be here and see you all again.
Well, yeah, with that in mind, you'll let us know when you have further
Absolutely.
analysis. Thank you.
Thanks, Ralph.
Cool. All right, I'm going to jump off, but thank you all.
There is.
I would like you if she was working on this project, but I think she's doing another project.
Well, we are going to be at one point, we kind of have like the framework, the curriculum, sort of the basic components need to be included. But we are going to have community meetings as part of the grant, is to go to each tribal community and roll out like what the draft curriculum would be, get some input, make sure we're going in the right direction, saying what needs to be said and the way it should be said. And also particularly looking for, I don't know what the term is now, but culture bearers, people who are really immersed in the culture and knowledgeable, as well as elders. So, not sure. Who's your daughter?
Oh, I usually don't drop her name because she's not allowed to drop mine.
Okay, you don't have to do that. That's right.
But she works for Wabanaki Public Health and Wellness, and she works. She was working with the team that Ralph was working with, and I think she's doing a project on Alzheimer's and dementia. Yeah, so it's a different data set.
Okay,
but it would be cool to have her work in this.
You can reach out to Ralph and Lisa, the two working on.
Good, okay, so let's go ahead and approve minutes for January 6th. We'll do one at a time, since I know some were absent at different points. Everyone have a chance to look at the January 6th minutes, and if you have any questions, concerns, changes. No, seeing none, I'll
No,
ask for a vote
I'll
to-
move the approval of those minutes.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Thank you, Joseph. Any other questions on the minutes for January 6th? And, okay, so let's call for one, Darren,
Yeah, approved.
Dr. Randall,
Approved.
Robert Checkaway,
I'll second that.
okay, great, thank you, Nelson. Rita, anything? Joseph?
Yes.
Sam?
Yes.
Ezekiel?
Yep.
And I will abstain. Thank you, and now we'll look at the minutes for January 10.
Yes.
January 10, yes. Looks like we're all present for that. So any changes, additions, deletions, questions?
Make a motion to accept.
Thank you, Joseph. Rena, second. Any further questions on January 10? Okay, those in favor, Sam,
Yes.
Ezekiel,
Yes.
Joseph,
Yes.
Rena, no,
Yes.
Robert,
No
Check away.
objection. I approve.
And Dr. Randall,
Yes.
and one absent from the vote. Flying along here. April 18th in Augusta. I think we had, oh, absent. Was it? Any changes, additions, comments, deletions, observations? April 18th. Okay, any questions? Anyone want to move those to for approval?
Don't move.
Thank you. Second,
Yes.
Sam. Dr. Rachel,
Yes.
Mr. Checkaway,
I move their approval.
you vote yes and we you vote for the approval? Thank you. Nels,
Yes.
Rena, Joseph,
I abstain.
oh, that's right. Ezekiel? And Sam,
Yes.
thank you. I think that concludes our business for minutes approval. State appointment for the commissioner vacancies.
It's you.
It's me. So I did reach out to the I don't know, is it assistant?
Senior legal counsel.
Senior legal counsel, yes. Jerry Reed, yes. And I exchanged some emails with Jerry on he said he is happy to put some names forward. He would like to get together and sit down and talk about possibilities. And I just received something.
Oh, that's the next agenda item.
Oh, okay. So I think that's, I gotta get down there, we just have a, time, trying to schedule time for me to be in Augusta, I guess, is what's next. So, and then my last 3 or 4 weeks have been kind of busy, but we want to make time to get down there to visit. He was very gracious to his invitation. And I don't know if Nels or Robert had any insight. Mr. Chipaway?
Thank you, Newell. I just mentioned that if there's anybody listening on the live stream who's interested enough in the commission to want to follow this, please do contact, call me or call Newell to see if you might be a good candidate to fill one of these several vacancies.
Yes, and you can email me as well. My email is newell.louis@gmail.com. And Jill, did you have any further follow-up?
No. Well, I guess when you hear the names, will you circulate them?
I will, definitely. Yes.
Is it when you need to go down there anymore? I don't want to see the names.
No, but we were just gonna talk about the process, because that's been. It creates problems sometimes when they go about doing it with, I wouldn't say off book, but they just kind of put things out there. Last time that they put names forward, there was a lot of discussion around the names that they moved forward. Oh, your writing is too fancy for me.
Oh, no, so he's too, he's too bubbly. He's got too much of a bubble. I know, thank you, I appreciate that. Sometimes I can read, I'm like, I can't read you right. There's too much of a bubble.
You should see mine. We wouldn't be able to read it either, but for a different reason.
Yeah, I would say that she was previously interested.
Okay, great.
I did run into her last weekend, and since she completed her 8 years in the legislature.
Needs a new project.
Well, she just told me that she's heading up the nursing program at the Carl Community College.
Wow.
Yeah. It's good, yeah. So I'm not sure where she's at with her.
Okay, I can definitely give her a call if you have a number for her or an email. I know she sends me stuff. Anyway, sorry, Jill, I didn't hear your answer. Good, you're all set.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll follow up with that again as soon as I know my time frame for getting to Augusta. I will let Jill know and Rachel, and they will either inform you or of the results. So we'll move on from there. Maine State Archives.
So this agreement has come in front of you a few times now. And I believe at our Augusta meeting, Kim Pat Wharton was there. And she seemed a little surprised that the Attorney General's office had not been involved. And so I mean, maybe Christian, you could talk a little bit about that, but it did go through some process in the AG's office, and they were all right with it, except for one new addition of the confidentiality provision.
Yeah, our representative in the AG's office just wanted a different confidentiality clause added in, or to make it a little bit more, to clarify it a little bit more. Other than that, it was fine. As far as I had known, our confidentiality clause was the same on every MOU that we've put out in the last several years. It's just kind of boilerplate language, but for whatever reason, John just wanted to change it. I think he's overly cautious, but it just wanted to say that if records get FOA'd, then we have to submit them as long as they're not confidential records. Greg, did you want to? Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say, ask if Greg wanted to add anything else. I know his legal team also looked at it after John.
Yeah, I mean, our
changed that
legal,
language.
yeah, our legal counsel had looked at it. They're fine with it. So
I did ask Bob to look at it as well, see if he thought that there was anything.
Yeah, I had no objection.
And we won't have much confidential information in our records, and if there's some personnel files or something, those would be taken out because they're not subject to the Freedom of Information Act, Freedom of Access Act. So I don't think we have a lot anyway. If it was confidential, it wouldn't be released without written authorization. So before it gets to be 110, it would be good if we would move ahead on this.
Yeah, it's great. Our record management people are looking forward to coming up and visiting you.
Okay, so great, thank you.
Well, it probably would be good to, you can do a motion, or pardon me, are you gonna ask for a vote?
Yes, so the memorandum of agreement. Is there any objections to moving forward with that from the Maine Tribal State Commission? You get a vote to move forward, I guess? Please vote on the motions. Okay, official. Thank you. Move forward. Thank you, Joseph. Any second?
A second.
Sam beat you to it, sorry.
Oh man, trying to be a good commissioner.
Joseph and Sam.
Any other questions on the memorandum? Or any further comments from the state archives? I'm looking this way, I don't know where to look. I don't know where I am.
Don't look at Google.
I know, I've been looking. All right, with no questions, I'll go ahead and take a vote. Robert, check away.
I approve.
Dr. Renko,
Yes, I approve.
no.
I'm good.
Rena, Joseph,
Yes.
Ezekiel,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes.
and you, yes. Yes, thank you.
And Christian and Greg, I do have a signed original that I can circulate to you. So just get it to Greg at UMO.
sure.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we are moving along to fishing with Robert Checkaway.
Let's see. I think we can excuse Greg and Christian unless they want to remain for the rest of this. Are we done with their part of the business? Do I see they want to remain? Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks. I've got a meeting with the Secretary of State in about 5 minutes. So
I was going to say,
I'll take that.
thank you for all.
Yeah, much appreciated.
Look forward to working with you.
Likewise.
Bye-bye.
See you soon, Greg.
Okay, on the Boundary Waters fishing rules update. First of all, I sent out a couple of emails yesterday, one from me, the commissioners, and the native biologists explaining or introducing what I'm about to say today, and the other one, a memo from Jared Parker at IF&W to our fishing group and copies to some of his people. Unfortunately, I cut off the attachments to Jared Parker's email. It's originally dated June 3rd, and saw that I'd done that this morning, so I resent it with the attachments. The attachments consist of a map and a couple of tables, one for streams and rivers and one for lakes and ponds, which include Inland Fish and Wildlife's complete inventory of everything, all waters they know of that are subject to MITSC jurisdiction, along with all kinds of detailed information like their location and in the case of lakes and ponds, their size, the percentage of shoreline under Indian control, and stocking references showing what species were last stocked in each water. I'll get back to that. Now, the project has been kind of cold for a while, but it's not dead. If anything, it's getting bigger. And the long and the short of it is, I think it's now time for us to get back with the native biologist. I think there's enough information coming from IF&W that it's worth our while to have the natives respond to it. When I say we're getting behind schedule because my idea anyway had originally been to parallel Inland Fish and Wildlife schedule. They promulgate new regulations effective January of each year. And as you can imagine, in order to make a January deadline, they have to go through their publication process, which we would too, and the printing and so on. Basically, we would have to have gotten everything done by about June 30 to be able to make the rule book for 2026. And we're just not, for reasons I can explain. We got as far as opening this project and filing with the Secretary of State our intention to adopt regulations, which was something we'd never done before. And we opened communications with the Attorney General's office, something we'd never done before on this subject. Got their approval for the regulatory notification anyway. So at least we've marked that trail a little bit. We'll know what to do next year. But problems along the way include Joe Overlock, who was the official at IF&W who has been acting as sort of our liaison, left state service. He's gone to private enterprise. And that's a big loss because I don't know if you're familiar with the work he's already done, but he has prepared tables showing the discrepancies between IF&W and MITSC regulations. And he was very proactive. I mean, he was glad to meet our challenge to update these regulations, and we're sorry to have lost him. I would think it's fair to say that the new liaison is this fellow, Jared Parker, the author of the memo, which included the map and stocking list. I'll get back to him again. And a happier reason for a delay is that while we've been working on this project, the Holton Band has now become one of the groups for which we exercise supervisory authority. They have standing now as part of MITSC to promulgate their version of boundary waters rules, which is their option if they don't want to take whatever the state default is. Sam, fortunately, was able to join us at our last meeting in Augusta, along with Nels, and I'm very glad to have their involvement because I'm now realizing that I'm just a bureaucrat, and while I can do the regulations and the publication and so on, I lack the sufficient understanding of the substantive area. And it's although I think of fishing as fun to do, there's a lot of substance to this. I would say that the whole project is a big chore, but a great opportunity. It's a chore because, well, the statute says we're supposed to do it. We haven't done it in 20 or 25 years. And as I say, it involves a lot of science and a lot of geography. We're expected to do this to steward the resources. And if we don't exercise this responsibility, the whole subject kind of falls into lawless chaos. I don't know if anybody has been enforcing fishing regulations on MITSC waters. And from the tribal perspective, any water, any boundary water that is not under, to which MITSC does not exercise its regulatory jurisdiction, goes by default to state rules. So if we don't do it, you get whatever the state wants. It's an opportunity though, because I mean, this has to be an ideal example of what state and tribal relations should be about. I mean, this is where it's really at. The subject involves not just government to government relations that everybody talks about lately, but resource manager to resource manager. I mean, this is real objective information, not abstract. It's been state and tribal officials have been dealing with fishing resource issues since before 1980, and they will continue dealing with these issues, whatever the legislature and the tribes do with the current statutes. This transcends even what we think of as typically as the sovereignty issues we've dealt with the last few years, because whatever the relationship between state and tribes is, it will always involve geography, and the boundaries will always be there, no matter what the law is. And if we're lucky, the resource will always be there. Plus, this is an area where that should be right in the native wheelhouse, as I mean, it calls for. This is where traditional environmental ecological knowledge can be brought to bear. This is where the state needs this kind of information. Now, when I first suggested we get into this project, I promised Paul Thibault that I could do this and I wouldn't burden the staff, because he knew it would be a job. But it's just unavoidable. It's too big a job. I'm grateful to Rachel and Jill for having done what they've done already. They're probably going to have to play a bigger role than they already have. It is fortunate, as I say, that we have Nels and Sam now, because this is going to take a lot more labor, effort, and understanding than I have. But to get to the current status, our most recent contact with IF&W was a meeting they asked for last week. I thought it was just to review mapping of the added area to come with the Holton Band coming under MITSC jurisdiction. But in fact, Jared Parker seems to want to develop a complete statewide listing of all waters which could be subject to MITSC jurisdiction. And that involves technical problems and legal problems. First of all, I can't even begin to understand Google Earth, much less the GIS technology that overlays that. I mean, years ago, the MITSC had to undertake a professional survey to determine whether Lake Mattagamon was or was not more than 50% within tribal ownership. I had figured that we'd be able to avoid that kind of expense in the modern era because the computers would take care of it all. But the problem is you need somebody who can deal with the computers. It's not as simple as just dialing it up on the screen. And we're now aware of a diplomatic or legal issue on top of the technical issues, which is Native tribes have proprietary rights in mapping of their own territories, such that IF&W can't just say, let me see your properties. The tribes have it within their own can to determine how much, if any, of this mapping they want to release. So I need to ask the tribal commissioners here to be in discussion with I guess tribal government and your biologist to let them know where we're at. Let them know that the state would love more information. If you look at Jared Parker's June 3rd memo, the version I sent this morning, which actually has the attachments, you can see the map, you can see how far he's gone. You can get some understanding of what's involved here. As a demonstration of the fact that I have no technical understanding, I can't even put it up on the screen. But if you can click on that thing and bring it up sometime when you get a minute, you'll get an idea of what's at stake here. Now, this doesn't I don't think this has to be a dead end if the tribes all say, we're not going to give you any of our information. We did it without an exchange of mapping in 1998 and again in 2002. But we only regulated what the tribes were willing to see regulated. In other words, we did not exchange complete mapping information, complete statewide mapping information sufficient to allow everybody to determine every possible MITSC water everywhere. The people who were involved in that project at the time limited their attention to certain areas that they wanted to regulate. And I don't see why we can't continue to do that. In other words, the tribal resource managers will focus on those areas which they want to see MITSC regulate. The rest will be left to, by default, to state regulation. But it's certainly an interesting subject to the extent that anybody's willing to get in deeper to the GIS and mapping issues. I'm sure IF&W would be delighted to work with you. Let me wrap it up here. There are two specific issues that don't require going into the whole universe of problems. One is heritage waters. I've mentioned this before. Heritage waters is what the state uses to call, and Nels or Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically waters containing natural stocks of brook trout which have not been stocked in at least 25 years. The only thing that's special about them is that they are declared to be heritage waters, and I think by necessity they are limited to fly fishing only, or at least no live fish as bait rules. And interestingly enough, although IF&W had been listing several waters that are actually under MITSC jurisdiction as heritage waters, without our involvement at all, the Attorney General's office contacted them to let them know that they don't have the power to designate waters under MITSC jurisdiction as heritage waters or not. So the question is, as to those waters listed in my email of yesterday, there's 8 or 10 of them, does anybody want to see them listed as heritage waters or see them stricken from the list of heritage waters? And I'll mention while I'm at it that all but 2 of the waters on that list are under MITSC jurisdiction, but one is not even under MITSC jurisdiction. It's under Penobscot Nation jurisdiction, and the other is under Passamaquoddy jurisdiction. So that's a decision that doesn't even need to go to MITSC. But just so you're aware of it, those 2 tribal governments have the right and opportunity to decide whether they want those waters designated within heritage waters or not. The other specific issue, and this just it came up at the last meeting, and I can't believe I didn't think of it earlier. But Jared Parker said something like, well, how do you people feel about stalking? You know, the state spends a huge amount of money and effort stalking various species. If you look at the attachments to Parker's letter the third, for which he only got the attachments this morning, he's included a table of rivers and streams and one of lakes and ponds with all the information I mentioned previously, including list of what they're stocking. I can't imagine the native biologists don't have some views on what the state is stocking and how. And, you know, the term co-management gets thrown around a lot, but it seems to me like that ought to be a big piece of it instead of just having the state dump its tank trucks or whatever they do to stock these rivers, that at least as to those where MITSC has jurisdiction, the tribal resource managers, tribal governments clearly have some say in what is done with that stocking. So once again, I think we need the native commissioners to take the information home and ask what, if anything, tribal government, tribal resource managers want to do about stocking. Jared Parker has basically asked the open-ended question, what do you think about what we're doing for stocking? And you're welcome to tell him exactly what you think. One last specific item, the so-called S33 regulation. When we last left off with the tribal biologists, the biggest specific ask they had was they would like to see the so-called S33 regulation extended more broadly. S33 is the special reg which forbids the taking of landlocked salmon over 25 inches on the theory that people might mistakenly take an Atlantic salmon thinking, oh boy, I found an Atlantic salmon. This has all kinds of problems, not the least of which is that this is not under IF&W's jurisdiction, but the Department of Marine Resources jurisdiction. I was pleased to see from Mr. Kamick's charts that it looks like DMR has more connection with tribal citizens than any other state agency. So at least there's some familiarity there. But we've just lost Pat Kelleher as commissioner, and in general, that's sort of the biggest keystone, not keystone, but cap issue. And I think the fishing group is agreed that we need to solve the more basic problems and establish the relationship before we go on to the more advanced question of trying to expand the S33 regulation. So with that, so I don't take up the entire agenda, the takeaway is to our native partners, please take this information back to your biologist or your government. Let them know where we're at so we can frame a response. I think it's a bit awkward and inefficient for MITSC to continue to act as liaison between the separate groups. I think we really need to get the state biologists, the tribal biologists together. I know all of those resource people think going to a meeting is the worst thing in the world, but maybe it doesn't have to be done by meeting. Maybe it can be done area by area. You know, the state IF&W is broken into the different regions. I think maybe the Passamaquoddy tribe covers a couple of state regions, while the Penobscot Nation may only have to deal with one. But your resource people know who the state guys are, and either as part of a formal meeting or just manager to manager over the phone or face to face, and either with or without MITSC, it's time to get the resource managers rather than the bureaucrats together, however we have to do it. And if anybody's on the live stream is interested enough in this and you want to see the information that was exchanged with Jared Parker, send me an email. It's robert.checkaway@gmail.com, and I will try to send those to anybody interested. All right. Have I put everybody to sleep, or are there comments or questions?
No, I'm sure we're gonna have some questions, but I want to turn to Sam first and see, ask for his take on this as well. I know you attended the last meeting.
Yeah, just like if we had like an update from our meeting time. Our current process is, I brought up an email talking about, what information we release to our, so like Tribal GIS, like maps I've made, stuff like that, but without the consideration of like what information we want to share. And so, right now I'm currently going through our maps and sort of skimming through and seeing what certain information maybe we want to keep in house and stuff like that when it comes to all these fishing related rules and that shouldn't take too long. But yeah, I would have never thought of that without having that meeting, that there's things we've made that have been the intention of staying in house, that now that we want to release the information, we're going to give it a quick skim and see what we want to keep. Stuff like, the way interactions between the river and say like areas of white ash stand, stuff like that. Like that's information, like that would be like an example of information that we want to take out that wouldn't necessarily apply to the fishing rules, something we want to just release to the state. So that's our current, where we're at currently, at least on truck specifically.
Thank you, Sam. So I'm gonna ask the other native the tribal state commissioners from MITSC and Passamaquoddy and Penobscot, if they had other input in terms of this fishing rules, and I'm particularly interested in stocking as well, because I have some concerns there. So Ezekiel, you first.
Well,
yeah,
well, actually, more advantage of that, I'm grateful that Sam's so well informed on this. He'd be the one to talk to about it.
I currently don't have any bodies of water where we would have the authority on stopping and stuff like that. So at least on our end, so yeah.
I was looking at the map here. It mentioned Conroy Lake. Fine, we'll talk about that. But
that's like when it comes to like the amount of property we own, shoreline, so that we have like one small pond, but it's not really conducive. Use it like sort of stocking, so I think that's kind of like she doesn't apply to this currently.
Okay. And I'll go to Joseph.
I'll talk to John Sewell, who's our biologist and does a lot of this stuff, but I know he was involved initially when we started talking about it with Bob. Talk to Chris.
Yeah, that was my question, Joseph. What does that connection between the tribe, environmental departments moving forward look like? Bob's talking about potentially making a connection. What does that look like?
Yeah.
I had another question too, where this is inland fisheries and wildlife, is this department only, Bob? Because we do have a tribal citizen that represents on the IFW advisory board for inland fisheries and wildlife, and them up, Miss John Neptune. They have a seat there, so is this department any work with the advisory or anything?
There was a question for you, Bob.
I'm sorry, what's the question?
I'm trying to figure out whether or not Bob is frozen or not. Any, Bob, I just mentioned that John Neptune serves as a tribal citizen on the Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Advisory Board. Any interactions with the board, or is it just with the department?
Oh, thank you, Rena. You mentioned that previously, that there is a advisory board, and I'm completely ignorant of what their role is. I got their I've been getting their meeting notices, and even that's not enough for me to know what their role is. I think they have some role in approving fishing regulations before they go out for general public comment. Could you tell me again who your fellow is on that board?
Penobscot Tribal Citizen John Neptune.
Say the name again, please.
John Neptune.
Okay, and is there a Passamaquoddy citizen on that too?
It started out with first, it's a rotating seat, and John was nominated and he went through the confirmation process. So I believe he'll serve 5 years before it'll rotate out to the other tribes. Similar seating arrangement is with the Department of Marine Resources, which we haven't filled that seat yet.
I will, I don't suppose you have hit John Neptune's email, but if somebody will get it to me, I'll at least add him to the circulating group.
Okay, we'll see about getting that information to you.
Yeah, we'll get it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize for being so ignorant on that as well as everything else. You can see I'm out of my depth here, but we can certainly include him. And I mean, whatever you want to do next and however you want to approach the mapping, I mean, you got to admit the state is being, or at least this department, is being very open. This is the kind of information, boy, if we had to go to court to get, it would take forever. So take that information home, and it's yours to do with as you see fit. Let me know what you think.
Thank you.
Well, I'd just like to confirm that the advisory board looks at all the regulations before they go out for public comment. And I'd just like to add, and I think the same process happened out of Region C, which is in Machias and now Jonesboro. It's Region F and I was part of it and empty. We work collaboratively with both tribal Clem Fay, Dan, John, before we initiated any regulation changes. We'd share our fisheries data between us, as well as any stocking decisions. Not only whether to stock, but whether to change stocking numbers, species, any of those. We would have a sit down with John Banks, for instance, John Sewell, and work those through before any of those decisions were made. And that, I guess that was at a regional or local level. But all those decisions were then bumped up to the state. That's the headquarters. So there is a process where, like I said, all the regions work collaboratively with tribal resource managers. So, if it needs to be put into, some sort of written agreement, that's great, but that process already happened.
Thanks, Nels. Once again, it shows that we need to get the bureaucrats out of the middle and get the biologists and the people who are directly involved working.
Right. So I'm going to reach out to Dr. Rank also and see if he has any comments? Is there?
No, I think it's a good process. I think yeah, I think engaging with the departments, obviously, the tribal environmental department would be good. I mean, he mentioned, yeah, of course, John Banks isn't there, but yeah, Chuck Loring is, and we still have a pretty elaborate program. So, and I'm pretty sure Sam is in the room there, so he can speak to Maliseet. So yeah, anyway, no.
All right, thank you. So I had two comments. Just one is going to question for Bob. So I didn't get a chance to see the map, but it did show all MITSC waters in the map.
Jill, what was or Nels, what was your understanding of that? I can barely get that thing to open.
I couldn't get it to open.
I can't get it to open.
Just sent that this morning.
Yeah.
Who sent it this morning?
Anyway, my further question is, did it take into account MITSC waters having to be 10 acres or more? Is that correct?
In order for MITSC to have jurisdiction, it has to be 10 acres or more with over 50% of shoreline in Indian Territory. But I think the tables, the stocking tables, will list even those that are under 10 acres. Not as if MITSC has jurisdiction, but just so we know they exist.
Right. So is that also include any bodies of water that are within trust lands?
Yes.
Yes.
So if they're 5 acres in trust land, they're not MITSC water?
Right, not that overland.
They were included as MITSC waters.
No. As tribal waters.
Tribal waters.
They were differentiated between tribal waters and MITSC waters.
Okay, all right, so that answers one of my questions in terms of, like, I know there's a pond at the Blueberry Lands that sometimes it's 10 acres, sometimes it isn't. Okay. Depending on, the weather.
Irrigation.
Yeah.
Well, that was the situation.
all right.
That was the situation with Mary Patouche Pond, where the Passamaquoddies and Overlock at the time agreed that it was just under 10 acres. So it's gone back to Passamaquoddy total control.
Right, okay, so I think that's what will happen with this pond, right? It's all within trust land, so it's gonna be. So then the other concern was stocking in terms of, like, would there be, are the considerations stocking any invasive species in waters that never carry those species? Or is that a consideration?
I don't think they stock anything that anybody would consider invasive. I think they stock only, well, I guess you might consider brown trout invasive, but they don't stock bass. Am I right, Nels?
Correct. There have been instances where bass have been moved from one body of water to another, but the water that they're stocking bass into had bass populations that were decimated by water level drawdowns, invasive species, and that sort of thing. So, but that's not typical of a stocking program. So basically, the stocking would be brook trout, landlocked salmon, lake trout, the typical raised in hatcheries, certified, disease-free, non-invasive. But there have been instances where bass have been taken from one body of water and put into another.
And bass being an invasive species.
Well,
Right.
yeah, it gets a little complicated because they're not considered statewide. They never existed in Maine.
Correct.
So you could label them as an invasive species. However, they've been here for hundreds of years, and in some instances,
there are a lot of people fishing.
Yeah, no, yeah, I
And
understand.
we certainly don't want those species, largemouth, smallmouth, any of those species, moved into waters where they don't exist. That's the biggest problem. Bucket
Again.
biologists, not state. Yeah.
Okay, all right, so that is a consideration.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So you got a wealth of information there in those two tables. Spread them around. The state's glad to talk.
I just wonder what kind of information would be presented, to tribal environmental contacts?
They should have all of it. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yes,
And
they should have access to all of the information.
yeah, I'm just thinking what's going to accompany the introduction.
To like, Ralph and Chris.
Yeah.
Well, I know, I don't, like, speak to them, but I know like stocking numbers and stuff like that are pretty wide, like, easily. The information spread around, at least like from this department, if we ask for it, they would get stocking numbers if they're not already published.
Okay.
But, yeah, they're pretty, the information out there for circulating pretty good amongst,
Okay.
so maybe check.
Well, I
and,
think
you know,
you
remind
answered my
our-
question.
Yeah.
Just who's going to make contact
Yeah.
with whom
Yeah.
and how.
Oh, yeah,
And yeah,
we work so close together.
Okay,
they're always
cool.
so-
takes
yeah,
care of that
yeah.
good stuff. Thank you.
Well, and I'll talk to John about it, whether he's talking to us or Ralph about that stuff, really in the passport.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
Any further questions? Let's see. I mean, see who's not-
I don't have the camera.
Is there more?
Oh.
Okay. I didn't know from the line.
Durango only pops up when you mention
Yes,
his
that's
name.
right. Yeah, but where is he?
Just follow his name.
Oh, I know, but I don't. Usually
No,
there's a
but-
block.
Sorry,
There he
There he
is,
is.
see?
Magic.
I just keep my my video off. I'm here.
Yeah, I understand, but I'm just saying, when I look at the wall here, I don't see, like, usually you see like blocks on the side, but people that are
Oh,
Yeah.
it's probably
video off.
the setting. Yeah, probably not show the.
Thanks for popping in. Any other questions? No, maybe I'll-
Okay. Can I give some information to
Yes,
add to it?
please.
Yep, I have to say, so bear with me, I have a lot here. So he said that we are behind schedule. Well, we weren't really informed of how large his project was when the schedule was chosen, and it was sort of driven by what the state was doing. And in a way, it's really good that we were not moving ahead with something. At first, we thought it was just gonna be technical amendments, maybe updating, the number of fish that can be taken in a particular water body. But then it has grown, and some like substantive legal questions came up and policy decisions. I did give you a detailed report of everything the subcommittee has done. So that spelled out one, we did meet, 18 months ago. Rachel met up in, maybe Nels, you were there too, met in Old Town with governors and the tribal resource managers and the biologists. And that was even before meeting with the state. Kind of wanted to get their sense before we met with the state. And then last year, about I think it was July, we did meet in Augusta, and that's where Joe Overlock was. And so a lot of folks did participate in that. I don't know if we included you at that time. And so that was a face-to-face meeting, and then we just had one a week ago, having to do with the mapping. So we've had a lot of contact back and forth, so it's not just starting now. One of the very first questions I asked is, how do we know what the waters are and how do we know what the lands are? And I started with my own tribe, but then Binky, who was our GIS wizard, he retired, and so we were waiting to get somebody on staff, and so they had someone now. What that led to the meeting last week, and actually in July when we saw the maps, it was tribal water and state water, and MITSC water wasn't really designated. So I think tribal water shows up as red, and I remember that kind of struck me as I don't like that. But so, and then also we noticed in the book that MITSC waters were being labeled as tribal waters. So the book wasn't correct, the state's book. And so that was something, that needed to be corrected. I have completely retyped the rules. There's about over 30 pages, but the Secretary of State since '98 issued a very strict formatting guideline. Thou shalt use, Roman numeral A, number 1 and then A and 1, 2, 3, and this spaced and so forth. So, I tried to comply with that. And then Joe Overlock did an amazing job. I can't thank him enough. Kind of going through, and he actually edited our rules a little bit and said, well, this needs to change here. And then after a while, I think he gave up and then created this chart that showed the differences between the state rule and what the MITSC rule was, the 1998 rule. So I tried to incorporate all of that in there. And then also Holton Band wasn't included, so they needed to be added. And then the other thing was that the Penobscot River was never looked at as MITSC as something it might have to regulate. And then the river case came down, which indicates it could potentially be MITSC water. And then we got talking a little bit about the islands and trying to measure and how do you determine the shoreland and so on. So some of those little details. Then I was also looking at enforcement. It looks like the enforcement when you're on MITSC land, it could be tribal or state, but then the violations themselves all go to state court. I think it's by operation of the Implementing Act. So I asked Judd to do a little memo on that. So I think I may have shared that with you. So those provisions I thought should be in the rules because they're unusual. And then we have come up against these policy issues, including heritage waters. What are they? And does the tribe subscribe to that same value? And then does MITSC want to issue its own licenses, or does it want to give full faith and credit to a tribal or state license? So those kinds of things.
Yeah, thank you,
So
Jill.
I think we are looking now at more substantive rules. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank
So
you, Jill.
look, and it's a different process.
When I said we're behind schedule, I take full responsibility because I was the one who underestimated the schedule to begin with. I had no idea.
And we didn't think we'd do substantive rules, which we may be doing, and it's a longer process to do that. And public hearings are required, so it'll be a whole thing. And I didn't want to share the draft rules with you because I figure you have enough paper now and they need to be finalized. And what might be helpful though is to work with the commission is to say, here's the next subgroup meetings and with the fisheries biologists, but at some point you may want a half-day meeting or a whole day meeting. And I don't know if you want to bring the state folks in, the tribal biologists, kind of like when you get to a close to a finalized draft that you're happy with, and then everybody can say, okay, yeah, we're all right with that, because I don't think you want any surprises at a public hearing. When it comes up to that.
Yeah, in addition to that, Jill, you mentioned that you sent a detailed report. Did you send that by email?
It would have been in the materials. It was a couple of meetings ago. It's part of the staff report.
Staff report.
Or there was a section for Bob.
I mean, just for me, sometimes it's important that I have something to take back to the chief. Usually he's given an update, but if there's anything that I need to forward to his attention, then that's what I do as well.
Yeah, I haven't updated it since.
Okay. And I just want to acknowledge also, like Rachel, I said I couldn't see people lurking in the shadows, so if you're off camera, I can't see who's there. So I didn't want to forget about you.
Were you just asking if I had any comments?
Well, anytime you do, and if I can't see you, I don't know you're there.
Okay, yes, I will try to just leave my camera on for that reason, but thank you. And if I have to have it off for a moment,
Okay.
I need to turn it on to be seen. Thanks.
The GIS data question, I think, has to be looked at, because that was the first time I had ever heard the Penobscot said, don't release our information. And then Jared had come up with this, he said it was from the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act of 1971, which was, I found kind of puzzling.
Who
But
said
then,
that? Sorry.
Jared, the fellow from the state.
Oh, okay, yes.
And then it turns out, and it's on page 28 of your materials, he said it actually came from USGS guidance derived from the Department of the Interior's manual. You know, and I mean, it makes sense, you know, that tribes should be able to control their own data. And I actually ran into a tribal member who used to be in our natural resources department. And it was actually John Banks, not the nation itself, because I said, is there a council resolution or something that says this? So, well, no, John just said, you know, we're not releasing it. So that was good enough. But it made a lot of sense too, because he said, someone mentioned that because we have so much land and so few game wardens, they didn't want to publish the land because it really, they want to discourage poachers. They don't want them to know, you know, where the land is and so on. So
Right, that makes sense.
makes a lot of sense. So your idea of like, you know, being really specific about what GIS information is released makes a lot of sense. So that was it.
I'm trying to think of a term. I'll have to come back to it. My mind. With the consent agreement from the tribal for the GIS, I think that's a very pertinent topic for MITSC waters, tribal waters, and state waters as well.
Maybe, I don't know if an MOU.
Yeah,
I know
I'm
what
trying to
all
think of the term.
tribes, that's sweet.
Is there? I know on MITSC waters, both tribal and state game wardens enforce.
Depending on what land you're
For MITSC.
Yes.
MITSC
Right.
waters, yes.
Correct, yes.
Lily Lake is MITSC?
I guess my question is there an actual agreement? I always assumed that there was, because if I would be working on, for instance, Grand Lake Managaman, I would run into both tribal and state game wardens all in the course of the same day. They were all over the place.
I want to say there is with, I'm not sure, I know with past quarters there was. So I could talk to the chief because he was in.
Yeah, Nels, I think there is a statute providing for cross deputization or whatever they call it. I'll look it up and let you know.
I did ask our chief of game wardens up in Penobscot. I was like, because I've never seen one in tribal court, a MITSC violation. And
Right.
And
So-
he said it was depending on whether or not the person was native. And most of them were not, and so they all went to district court.
And that goes, the question goes back to what you just said a while ago, right? That the jurisdiction falls to the state on MITSC waters? Is that
Yeah,
what you said?
for the, yeah, to enforce, to hear the case.
To hear the case, okay.
But the tribal
And
game
that's,
warden,
and that's independent or non-dependent on whether the violation is tribal or not, right?
so it was something that they insisted on during the settlement. So tribal courts can't be trusted, you know.
We don't know how to do that stuff.
I think my only fishing case was at Passamaquoddy. Somebody had too many lines in the water for ice fishing.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, I was thinking about intellectual property in terms of like that consent for GSI. I think that information could be considered intellectual property for the tribal entity.
I think you also want the public to know, you know, that's not necessarily, you know, state waters or
Right.
tribal waters. But you don't want it, I think you want to structure it in such a way that they don't have to keep coming back. Like as new lands are being added, because there's a number of initiatives to get land back.
Yeah.
So as those come online, you know, then there'll be clear guidance when the state can ask the tribe for the information. So needing a new agreement every time.
So anybody else have comments or questions? Questions for Bob maybe, or Jill or Sam? or for anyone. Mel? We're good? All right, and I don't think we need a vote for anything on this, correct? Jen?
No, no, just.
Information. That brings us to a break. Break out.
12:30 or come back at 12:30?
Yes.
Rachel, will you take care of the screen? The live stream?
Yes, I will. So I'll put up the waiting screen and then you will mute the room.
Okay.
Okay, great.
What did you say?
Thank you.
So she needs to be back.
Yeah, that's the restriction, not 47. Yeah. That's involved with this.
They were champions last year, so I hope they should be able to play. She's a good coach, just.
Rachel, are we live?
Yes, we are.
Back?
Yes.
Wait. I see. My husband's right in the middle of it. Well, welcome back, everyone. So we'll start right in with the legislative update from the, was it 32nd?
Yes.
And we have with us Ezekiel.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, Joe asked me to give a little update on some of the legislation from this past session. Session's still ongoing, but is closing up. It's just handling the last of the bills. And I have a list here of bills that the Wabanaki Alliance were keeping tabs on, and then a couple that each of the individual nations have been watching. I don't have any specific order here, but a couple of the big ones that I think MITSC has historically had a say in the past have been carried over the session. So I know everyone's aware it's been pretty quiet for MITSC, but the in terms of delivering some kind of MITSC stance on bills this session. But the two big ones that I believe MITSC has addressed in the past, the sovereignty bill, or in this session it's LD 785, an act to enact the remaining recommendations of the task force on changes to the Maine Indian Land Claim Settlement and Implementing Act. That was carried over, so we'll be having that next session, as well as another one that we've as provided testimony on in the past, is the federal beneficial laws one. That's LD 395, an act to restore access to federal laws beneficial to the Wabanaki nations. Those that has been carried over as well. And there are some, well, a couple that have recently passed that are worth pointing out, and at least for the tribal people in the room, it's nice to know. So one of them is LD 14, an act to provide Indigenous peoples free access to state parks. That passed the House and the Senate and is heading to special appropriations now. The fiscal note is $39,000, and we'll see how that plays out. But there was some success there, passing through the chambers. Another one that recently passed, at least through the House and the Senate, was LD 1900. And for those who might not be familiar with that one, that is an act to bring parity to the state's recognition of the Wabanaki Nation's authority to provide electric power districts and child support enforcement. So this was one that the Holton Band, we were particularly interested in. It's right now, the Passamaquoddy and Penobscot have the ability to create their own utility districts, to provide electricity for communities, but not to sell off community. That's an important point that they stressed. And this bill would bring the Mouse Indians and Mi'kmaq Nation up to that same standard and allow us to create our own electric power districts as well. That and second half of the bill was to allow our tribal courts to enforce the collection of child support payments, which is something that is already practiced in the Penobscot Tribal Court. And as if this were to be enacted in the law, will allow the Holton Band and Mouse Indians Tribal Court to do the same. And it just this past week passed the House and the Senate. The House vote was on Wednesday, Senate vote was on Thursday, and it was almost entirely along party lines. but they passed. Uh, Another one that's important for the Mi'kmaq Nation, this is one that they've been working on for a while now, an act to establish equal tax treatment for the Mi'kmaq Nation. So for everyone probably familiar with 585 from 2 years ago now. Changed tax code for all of us except for the Mi'kmaq. And now the LB 982 to bring them up to the same kind of standard as the rest of the Wabanaki nations, and that is passed committee, ought to pass at a public hearing work session, but has yet to go to the floor for a vote. And another one, a big one that hasn't been voted on yet, is LD 958, an act to prohibit eminent domain on tribal lands. That is so. Part of our efforts in the past have been to amend the implementing act, and we've hit that kind of brick wall of governor vetoing our actions. And one of the things that they requested is that we break this up into smaller bits, handle one part at a time. This is our attempt to do that. We pulled out one single idea, which was the state practicing eminent domain on tribal lands, which is something that is not the way the rest of the country functions. The states do not have that authority over tribal lands within federal law. But because of our unique situation under the implementing act here in the state, they do. And this is something that we're attempting to remove from the implementing act. They say that, and we've talked about this in the last meeting, but as of right now, as passed through committee, the committee voted ought to pass. There was multiple work sessions on it, and has yet to have a vote on the House floor. We are, at least the Alliance is working on spreading awareness and getting the word out on that. What else? There's also an act to strengthen the teaching of Wabanaki studies in Maine schools. I know that's one that MITSC has been involved in the past. The status of that one is LD 1474. The committee voted ought to pass. There was a work session, but this also hasn't had a vote yet. There was another one that was we've talked about in the past, was specific for the Penobscot Nation. LD 1054, an act to authorize the Penobscot Nation to use wild game harvested on the Penobscot Indian Territory food venues located within the Penobscot Indian Territory, and that one was carried over. So we'll be handling that next session as well. Just make sure I've touched on each of these. Yeah, so those were just some of the main ones that I pulled out that I think, in particular, I think a couple of these are things that MITSC should be prepared to address, testify on. We have in the past. The task force changes to the Implementing Act, for instance, as well as the federal beneficial laws bill, and these will be coming up next session.
So the bill you mentioned about the tribal courts, you said that passed through the House and Senate?
Yes, yes.
And what are the chances of that getting signed?
I couldn't guess. I
Would be
do
a
know
guess.
one of the one thing that's helpful is that there's no fiscal note.
Right.
So that is up to 1900. But I guess.
Okay, but it just passed the House and Senate Thursday.
Yes, sir. I don't know. I don't remember if the governor's office weighed in on that particular bill. Yeah.
Oh, that's the power district.
Power district.
Oh, power district, sorry.
And Charleston enforcement.
Yeah, it
This
was that kind of combined bill that was sponsored by Rep. Dana. And it remained one single bill. And despite the fact that we thought it might be broken up into two. But yeah, it's they one bill and passed in committee and prevailed in the House and Senate.
So, so what happened with 585? I know that was in play a while ago. And it got cut down and pared down to one single item a few years back, but it's still going through.
Oh, I was just mentioning 585 because of the, so Mi'kmaq wasn't included in back then.
Okay.
So it was, I remember it was the collaboration, not consultation, the collaboration between the agencies, taxation and the sports betting. And the most sports betting is obvious, but the only one that Mi'kmaq wasn't included in the taxation part of it. I don't really recall why. I guess they just didn't want to at the time, or it wasn't included for whatever reason, but that was something that they wanted to be included in. So ever since they've been working on putting legislation, they attempted it last session, they got carried over, and now we're handling it this session. And yeah, so far it seems fairly positive. It's out to pass out of committee. And
when the session ends?
I don't know the date. I don't know. I was actually just looking that up, but no, I don't know.
And bills that are out there have 45 days to be signed, or they pass into law?
No.
Is that right? Something.
Former legislator.
Pardon?
You got former legislator. No.
Rena, you have that?
Some of them have to go back to the tribes. So if there's anyone that changed, you know, the implementing act, they have to go back.
Oh, for
and be approved. From the tribes.
certification.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I think that extended a little bit. I think my concern, appreciate the report, but my concern, you know, is that some of these, you know, haven't been reported out of committee. And that, you know, they've gone through the process of public hearing and committee vote, but they haven't been reported out of committee. So I think everything's gonna come. Are they going past 9 PM nowadays, or?
I don't know, but it's gotten to be a mess. And
That was my concern, like, when I started the 129. We had a number of bills that sat there that didn't even, I mean, I call them, they were wrapped in a ball, and we were at a tribal leaders meeting in Penobscot, talking about all the bills that had been submitted on behalf of the tribes, and they weren't moving, they weren't putting public hearings. And I remember on that tribal leaders meeting, there was a call made right from that meeting. They said, you know, start putting our bills up to committee for public hearing. And now, how many years later, we're finding our bills aren't coming in reported out of committee.
yeah.
There's another bill there too, one from BLA. They gave.
Yeah, the gaming one, which I believe was on the pass out of committee, and I haven't had a vote yet. I can pull that up if you.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, so that was that particular bill would, so there's mobile sports betting that is exclusive to the tribal nations right now, and that would expand mobile sports betting to internet gaming in general. $11.64.
Thank you.
That one was voted out ought to pass.
You sure? I'm sure.
Okay. And then,
Yeah.
and what would that change? What would change? What law would be changed right now? Oh, the sports betting online.
Yeah, it would allow internet gaming to be practiced here in the state of Maine and be exclusive to tribal government sports and that, similar to the sports betting.
Okay. Okay. So that was reported out. It was on the calendar for this week. And it was tabled. So it's going to be heard next Thursday. It's going to be presented to the House next Thursday. That's my understanding.
Yeah.
It's not, Ezekiel, thank you. And just online folks have questions? Jump in if you have a question. No?
Nobody's jumping.
No one's jumping. All right, so no? Also? Okay. Rita, you already asked a lot of questions. Joseph?
I'm good.
Then? Katie? Joe?
Did you mention LD 999?
No, if you want to provide an update on that, that'd be great.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm hearing
Sorry.
No, and I have to thank John Diefenbacher Kroll because he texted me because it did pass the House and the Senate, I guess. So, but it did change the title, and it got tied up with this other issue as to which other groups should be eligible for the state group health plan. So the title is now an act to include employees of the Maine Indian Tribal State Commission in the state's group health plan and to clarify future eligibility for the state's group health plan.
So no fiscal impact.
No, I know fiscal.
Wow, that's amazing. Oh, Arch passed an amendment, yeah, June 4. It did pass. Arch passes amended, yeah, June 4. So just Wednesday.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You know, you think they're gonna be no brainers, all of a sudden.
Yeah, they have to.
Some new wrinkle comes in.
Is there a fiscal note with that, Joe?
No, there's not.
No fiscal impact, right, okay. That's good news. Short and sweet. That's good news.
When does the next session start?
It's cold of night. Night starts at 2:45 in the morning. Did you say there's two larger ones that would carry federal beneficial bills?
Yeah, I can get the numbers here. LD 395, that's the federal beneficial loss.
Yep.
And then LD 785, that is the remaining recommendations of the task force.
Okay. The Wabanaki studies bill look good.
Yes, I remember watching that work session. It's yeah.
I have a fiscal
on
note.
task. I don't remember the fiscal note, how much it would be. Or it would be, I just don't know.
Yeah. It was pretty high last time we talked about it.
Yeah, I'll pull that, at least 1474.
No, there were a couple of things.
This hasn't been reported out yet.
Hasn't been reported on.
No.
Good, everybody? All right. So thank you for that update, Ezekiel. Really appreciate it. And the next thing we're gonna talk about is bylaws amendments for MITSC. And I think we don't have that many, correct?
No, just 3 major
And you'll highlight the
topics.
page 32.
Right. So the first one is to Article 1, organization C terms. So paragraph 1, 2, 3, and 4. This reflects the change in the statute allowing for staggered terms for commissioners.
Okay.
And so it basically tracks the language of the statute.
So we'll go 2, 2, and 2 every 3 years. Is that what that's saying?
November 23rd, 2024. 2, 3, and 4. And thereafter for 3 years. Bob probably knows more about this than I do. Chair still has a 4-year.
I wouldn't say that.
And the next one is a little more substantive. It's on page 33, H, conduct of meetings. And so because we are under the freedom of access law, MITSC has to have a remote meetings policy. So I looked at a number of them, and this one's actually based a lot on the University of Maine's policy. And so this basically says that commission members and the chair are expected to be physically present, except when it's not practicable. And then it gives you some examples of what not practicable are. So an emergency, urgent issue, or illness, temporary absence from the state of Maine, significant distance a member must travel, impediments to travel such as inclement weather, and other circumstances as determined by the chair. Actually, I was just thinking, each of the tribes has a little bit different tradition with regard to holding meetings when a tribal member has passed. And so at some point it might be helpful to have some guidance on that. So like today, Bert had to be, with his family. That might be a reason to be excused. I mean, it would fit under number 4.
Yes.
I think that's pretty much what we've been doing anyway.
Right. What is that conduct of meeting saying that we should be in person unless those items that have come up?
Yeah. Talks about what your remote participation should be like, and so using interactive technology which enables the meeting participation through live 2-way communication. It could just be audio only, or it could be like we're using an online video conferencing platform, which is like Zoom. And the public is supposed to be provided with remote access, and we do that with a live stream. But the other thing that we're not doing right now, which we need to somehow enact a change, is that if an opportunity for public input is allowed or required during the meeting, then we have to have an effective means of communication between the members and the public will be provided. So at this point, we don't have that. I mean, so we were kind of looking at what the legislature does.
Yeah, is that represented?
I think maybe we have to post something that says, if you think you want to comment, contact, Rachel or I, and get the Zoom link. That's the only thing I can think of. I don't know anything more about the streaming, how else you can jump in on that. Rachel, have you thought any more about this?
Rafi's the one that probably has the most knowledge about this. So I feel like I don't have a clear sense that I can report right now what it takes, but I think we can figure it out.
So I think, so I think generally just live streaming, it's just, you view it, you don't get to say anything.
Right.
Whereas we have to give the opportunity for folks to interact. So I think providing the Zoom link is what the legislature does for public hearings.
But at the last meeting, we had people putting comments in some chat.
Is that?
right? Or no, maybe they were texting you.
Yes, I think that's what it is, yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. Or text, no, that would be a
Yeah.
bad idea.
Yes. Who's-
I think the chat can come with those. Like Bob and.
Yeah, they can chat,
Yeah,
but-
yeah.
but the broadcast, they can't. All they can do is look.
So, but they can request it, so that's kind of what I'm thinking of doing, unless Rafi has a better or different idea. Because you want to be able to control when people speak, and when
Right.
people speak at the same time. So, there sort of has to be a moderator of that as well, so Rachel or I have to do,
So that's a new section entirely,
right,
right? Remote participation in meetings.
yeah, it's the second line of subparagraph 1. And the notice is already what we're doing. We basically say you're allowing for remote participation. This is how you get connected. And you also get the physical location. 3 is that if you participate in a commission meeting remotely, you are considered present for the purposes of the quorum and for voting. And votes taken during the commission meeting using remote means will be taken by roll call vote that can be seen in person. That's and actually, Newell, you did a really good job today with that, because calling each person and asking them to
Yeah.
vote, so that was wonderful. That's kind of what is supposed to happen each time. And then the other thing I don't think we were doing, but we can, is to make our documents and materials available electronically to the public. So we haven't been posting them. I would assume that's everything that's not confidential.
Right.
Posting. And so, and I don't think the commission's ever posted its materials.
What about the minutes?
The minutes, yes, but I guess.
Are those available online?
Yeah, those are.
Okay.
You posted the agenda.
Yes.
But all the reports and that, I think that's what it's saying, and you also have to make all those documents available.
And Jill, we did make that switch, so the materials are now available on the website. When you click on a specific meeting, you can see them along with the agenda.
Great. Okay. So that's pretty much that. It says nothing will really change in what we're doing except for the idea of having the public actually be able to participate in the meeting. And that if they're not in favor, always speak at the meeting. Let's see. And then I guess the other thing was there was directed to switch tribal member to tribal citizen.
Yes.
So that was done on page 37.
Yeah.
That's it. The only other thing I'll do, and you did approve the minutes today, was to add a section where it says, when will MITSC provide testimony? And so you laid those guidelines out, and I wrote them out in the minutes, so pretty much ratified those today. And so I suggested that they be put in your bylaws so that you always have them. It's helpful for people who come after.
So just a question on page 7. Or 38, I guess. Section E. It says Passamaquoddy tribes.
Oh. That was there before me. That was there before my time.
Okay, no, I'm just saying, I mean, that's something that probably should be changed.
Okay. Sure, it doesn't say that many places.
Yeah, like on page 30, on 32, page 1, under membership, it does say past and present. Row 1, aren't you?
I'm sorry, where did you see that?
Right, Joe? Right.
I'm sorry, where does it say that? The tribes?
Under membership on page 1. When it lists the tribes. The new language under terms also says that. That's not 45, so that's all good.
Oh, that's good, okay.
30 is where it says tribes.
Yeah.
Page 38 is where.
Oh, right, yeah. Okay. I thought there was another one.
No, I'm saying there, the other ones all say past and present tribe.
The vice chair, was she vice chief? Yes, for the.
Carrie Hamill, yes.
Right, was she saying that they might be interested in participating?
Yeah, she was asking how they could, you know, if it was possible.
So I think the statute provided for it, it's been sitting there for a while.
Yes. And then the vice chief of the Mi'kmaq have always been a
Bystander.
bystander, yeah.
And then that was the vice chief,
Yes, it was a vice chief.
and she shared that she wanted to be an official part
Yes.
of the commission. Cool, okay. That would require an act of legislature.
I think it's already been done, actually.
Interesting.
I remember seeing that before and saying it just needs to step forward, but I'll take a double check.
Okay.
And then Rachel, did you call tribal government? Because we were wondering, like, should we keep giving notice to Richard Silboy?
I believe that I spoke with the new chief of Mi'kmaq Nation, and my understanding was Richard Silboy is still the observer for MITSC.
Oh.
And so
She just came in and said Richard turned it over to her.
oh, who came in and said that? The vice chief?
Carrie
Okay.
Hamill.
Okay. Then I'm
Okay.
wrong.
Well, we'll get clarification.
Right, no, by email. I think vice chief sent, the new vice chief.
Right, and we'll need a certification.
Yeah.
The nation
A
saying
letter.
this is our person, yeah.
Okay.
Actually, do they get two representatives?
I think it's one observer. Yes,
Who are the new chief and vice chief?
pardon?
Who are the new tribal officers that you mentioned?
At Mi'kmaq, it's Sheila McCormick is the chief. And Terry Hamill is the vice chief. As of May 13th. Well, I think it's May 21st. When they officially
Okay, thank you.
exchanged. The election was May 13th. Rains were passed on the 21st. It's an old term.
Yeah, I was looking.
You drive. So you okay with the wordings that we have, Joe?
I am, I was just looking up real quick if, the MITSC statute itself was amended to include mid-modernization.
Oh.
Rachel, can you possibly look that up, 30, oh, here it is.
What was that?
I was gonna ask you to look at, 30 MRSA 6212.
Make that password. What? Password. Mouse. Oh, sounds like a total movie. All my relations.
I think the statute would have to be amended. I've seen it somewhere else.
It doesn't say anything about maybe.
I would say different, but it sounds like, I remember.
I think it was like. So that would have to go, that would be an implementing act change.
Yeah, but hey, you know, if Enigma wants it, then.
Yeah.
Well, that gives us something to do.
Next session. That's very good. Okay, thank you.
Jill, you got your answer from Zeke, I take it?
Yes, yeah, and I think there was something in the fishing rules where it said that they had the right to enact their own ordinances. So that's what I was looking
That they being Mi'kmaq?
at. Mi'kmaq.
Okay.
They might need their own internal vote though, maybe on that too.
Well, I think we would need some official
Right.
documentation. Not just, hey, can we join? Answer is yes, but then, you know, to make it official. Right.
I'm done with.
Okay, so you wanted, are we amending that, letter E or no?
On 38?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can include that in the motion.
Yeah, okay. So the motion would be to accept the bylaw, MITSC bylaws amendments as presented, including one addition on page 38 or page 7 to change the Passamaquoddy tribes to the Passamaquoddy tribe. Anybody wanna make that a motion? Oh, Joseph
I'll second.
and Ezekiel, second. So any further discussion on those bylaws?
Only question is amending the bylaws, that was net, by this being proposed on April 18th, is that why that note is up on the top?
Yes.
So that bylaws can be amended at any meeting of the commission, provided that the proposed amendment had been presented at the previous meeting. So with the note of April 18th, they were, so that's the only condition having to be met, then these are good, right?
So maybe we should include it in the motion as well. Can we add that to the motion?
Sure.
Just to mention that Raina pointed out, we talked about this on April 18th. Yeah, right there. So further discussion, questions, comments? Yep. All good? So I'll start with Robert. You approve the changes, bylaw amendments?
I vote to approve the changes.
Okay. Yeah, Nelson. Yes. Rita? Joseph? Ezekiel?
Yep.
Sam?
Yes.
And yes. Oh, Bert?
Dr. Darren,
Oh, Darren.
oh, there's only 4, so no, I think we lost them all.
Okay, no.
3 on the bottom, only here on the left.
Wow. Okay, I would have never looked there. I'm used to seeing the blocks on the side. Shows me that.
With the names.
Yeah. All right, motion passes. Jill, thank you. We'll move on to MITSC financials.
Yes.
Yeah, and grant projects and staff advice, staff advice.
We're coming up to the end of the fiscal year, so we have a lot of money still left, even at the close of the fiscal year before our next allocation. I included the bank statements for you. Pat and I both attended, was it 3 days, a 3 days in the afternoons webinar on QuickBooks Online and trying to convert our desktop version into the online version. And Rachel helped with the migration, but it was not a seamless migration. So Pat's had to do a lot in terms of, well, I mean, you can explain what you've been up to. Would you like to share your frustration?
Sure. Hi, all. Nice to be with you.
Yes, thank you.
So, due to a medical emergency back in December, I was absent for 3 months, and Jill really took the reins and made sure everyone got paid, the bills got paid. She was actually thrown a curveball, but she did a great job, and I just needed to recover. Rachel did the migration from desktop to online. When I did come back in the middle of March and started to go through the records, the migration did not totally take total effect. It just didn't migrate properly. So trying to figure that out, I did. We did have some communication with Intuit, but they only give you a limited window of time to ask them questions and to review things. And then once you get through with that limit of time, then they want to charge you. So Jill went ahead, we ordered some books. I suggested QuickBooks for Dummies online, and that's been helping. In the meantime, we did do a 3-day seminar, which was a big help. And as a result of that seminar, we enrolled in a 1-year, I guess, a 1 year that we can check with any questions we have. And they put us in a queue, and then they can work with us for an hour each time. And that's been a big help. So Jill and I had a meeting on Tuesday. We both learned, I feel, a lot. I'm understanding it more. I don't know if any of you are familiar with QuickBooks Desktop versus online. There is a big difference, and it is a bit more complicated. I'm working to learn it and improve it, and Jill and I are working on it together, but it is taking some time. I'll get it, as Jill will, but it's been frustrating, and as many of you know, I like to be spot on with what I'm doing and understanding, and I'm not right at this point. That's why you don't have your financials, profit and loss today, because it hasn't been easy to figure that out. They've renamed many of their reports, and they've included many new categories, which they don't coincide with the desktop, and it's just a big learning curve. And I'm working as best I can to understand it. And I apologize for not having the reports, but I'd rather tell you I can't give you reports yet rather than give you something that's not accurate. So I have a lot of posting to do for the past 3 months where Jill picked up and paid invoices, made sure you all got paid your per diems. That all needs to be entered into QuickBooks. And that's what I'm in the process of doing now. So on Tuesday, during our meeting, I realized it was brought to my attention that we were 156 entries that had not been entered. So I worked on it on Friday. I was here till 6 o'clock, and we're down to 56 entries. So I'm learning, and I'm entering things the best I can right now.
And one thing that helped was Pat was current up through December 31st of 2024. So on the desktop, so we have all those reports. And the problem is that when it migrated, it took the entire history of MITSC's finances and tried to put it into QuickBooks Online. And I remember seeing like 800 transactions, and I'm like, there's no way that that's just happened. And so what we had to do with Intuit is say, we'll just stop. We'll use the desktop till the end of December and start fresh with QuickBooks Online in January. And so that's kind of where we're at and keeping up with that.
And that's where we found out the migration didn't work the way we thought it would, and the way they said it would. So we started, Jill and I picked up, we decided from January 1st. And I'm moving forward from there.
And then actually there's more money than what shows up on the statements. Because we're not a 501c3, when we apply for a grant, we have to have a fiscal sponsor who is. And so Cobb's Cook Institute is our fiscal sponsor. But what happens is the check goes to them. So let's say it's a $30,000 grant. It gets written to Cobb's Cook Institute, and they put it in their bank account, usually an interest-bearing account. And then Pat submits reimbursement requests from that account. So there is more money that is sitting in the Cobb's Cook Institute. I did ask for a report from them, but they said same thing, end of year, wrapping things up. So next week we're going to be meeting with Valerie from
Yes.
Cobb's Cook to come.
And Valerie came to me this afternoon and said, Pat, I'd like to work with you and Jill. I couldn't give her a report, but you need to submit more information so that we can refund you some money. And I'm in the process next week of looking at the list and seeing how much they do owe us. The other thing she did request is that what I'm usually was doing in the past was requesting it monthly as we paid someone like Rafi, and the work that he did charge to whatever grant. What she is requesting is that I stretch it out further to maybe request every 3 months or 2 months. Jill and I can talk about that, because she said it's just, she does fiscal sponsorships for others, and she said it's just too much for her, for me to give them to her monthly in dribs and drabs. So she said she's willing to work with us, and that's something we can decide on between her, Jill, and myself.
Thank you very much and all the best to you and your family as well.
Thank you. I'm feeling much better, and it's good to be back.
Great.
I have a question.
Yes.
In regards to how many accounts Cobb's Cook Institute holds for MITSC.
I think it's 4. 4 grants. One's wrapping up, the SWOOP grant.
School grant wrapping up,
Yes.
not renewing.
Meaning that's only got like 3 more months on it, and then we should close it. Since it's been open for a year. And well, see there, and there are different durations, like one's a year, one's 3 years, another one is 2 years, so.
Yeah, I think my only concern there, if there's some concern on, you know, timely reimbursement back to MITSC because of the volume that they have and other sponsors.
Well,
Or
they
they sponsoring.
Yeah, they are sponsors for other non-501c3s who are nonprofits but don't have that status. But the thing in the past, I think, is that MITSC had such a tiny budget, and then, you know, due to the work of Paul and the commission, ended up getting greatly increased. So we have much more of a cushion now, as opposed to, you know, coming right to the end and not having any money at all at the end of the month. It's got pretty close. So now we do have a little more of a cushion to get to be able to wait a little bit longer for reimbursement if we have to. So I think it's also collecting them together, so she only has to look at MITSC once every 2 months as opposed to every.
Right, that's what she's hoping to do. And sometimes if there's one that's just a small one, she said we can submit that for the month, but she said if there's larger submissions, she'd appreciate it, that we group them maybe every 2 to 3 months.
We'll see if it's a problem.
No,
I don't think
it won't be.
Well, the thing is if they're getting interest on it too. I was like, that
Yes.
has to get the interest.
Oh.
Plus they.
I asked them if they could switch. I asked them if they could switch the interest over to us, and she just laughed and she said, "You're a typical finance person."
And I think it's to cover these kinds of costs.
Yeah.
The other people. But people in their accountants. Unfortunately, we don't have the report, but we will be working on getting you the full annual report, which is we're closing out June 30th, so we should get that. Once we sit down with Valerie, get everything pulled together. And I do have access to QuickBooks Online, but I'm not messing with it because, you know, Pat may have a different vision of the chart of accounts and what she wants to set up for different things. So I did set up some things, and we realized maybe, you know, she thinks something it's a different kind of expense, so she put it somewhere else. So I'm letting her get that all set up with her assistant, and then I can monitor it.
And then Jill and I can
had
review it and see where's the best place for things to be.
Do you have other things for it, Aggie?
I don't, okay.
Anyone else have questions? Bob, Darren, if you're there.
No. Are there update on your staff report? I know we're hoping to adjourn here. It was brought to my attention once again, number 6, in the tribal contribution from Sabayat. So the administrative assistant, Jeannie Mitchell was working on that. I think maybe there might have been some communication from Pat. So that was being addressed this past week. I'm not really sure where it is.
I spoke with Tiffany on June 3rd, and she said she was going to present it to Chief Timothy Joyce today to give him a chance to settle in. And she would get back to me early next week.
Okay. So he's a financial guy.
Oh, okay, you just made him cheat.
Yeah.
I was like, "Hey, I didn't hear about that."
So Pat, I'm sure our CFO will be pleased to know that you promoted him to chief.
Oh, I was told he was a chief, so I'm sorry.
Chief Financial Officer.
Okay, I got it. I'm still learning. I'm sorry. I apologize.
So yeah, if you want to move on to the staff report, we covered most of everything that's in here. And maybe just Rachel, she's been doing some more work with Living Tides, and then maybe at the same time you can talk about a couple more videos that you're going to be doing, particularly on my ancestors' paddle.
Yep. We've actually been working more on the intro to MITSC videos because they're shorter and just easier to turn around faster than we have currently on the ancestors paddle video. But it's all a work in progress. And as I said, we posted the first video, so you can all check it out on the MITSC website, the intro to MITSC video. And it would be great to get feedback too, as we do the other two videos in that vein. And then as far as Living Tides, yeah, it's in the staff report that there was a tour put on in relation to this Fundy Bay connectivity grant, looking at some of the locations that were considered priorities in terms of river restoration and dam remediation. And it was a pretty good group of people, and we took cars and vans around to a lot of different locations as far as Calais and Medibumps, Whiting. And I think the big takeaway for me was just to see how important it is when you're addressing like one dam on a river to then address the multitude of dams on that same river, because you can put a ton of effort and money into removing a dam like the one in Whiting, for example, but then just upstream there's another dam that needs to be addressed, and then upstream from that there's yet another dam. So it was good to just see that, like visit location after location, because it's all, yeah, it's a big project to make that fish access. And also at another location, like we could see the alewives running up the stream. So that was heartening to see, like, wow, this is the result of dam remediation, is that these fish can return. So that was one thing we participated in. And then there was a huge effort on the part of the Living Tides group to support the alewife run relay race that takes place from Sabayak to Forest City. So that happened over Memorial Day weekend. Yeah, and those are basically the two focuses in the last month of what Living Tides has been up to.
I think the one thing we noticed when putting together the videos is we don't have enough photographs of commissioners.
Yeah.
And so I'm terrible about asking to take somebody's picture. But just be aware in the future, you maybe be asked for your picture more, or
Don't ask.
more candid shots. There's a great one of Bert with Chief Akaji, and they're just sitting in chairs together, just beaming. And I don't know what they were talking about, but it's just a
nice photo.
Yeah, it's really nice. So if you haven't seen those videos yet, please check them out.
I can submit some pictures. I feel like I'm like our department's mascot sometimes.
Okay.
So if you want some pictures, submit some.
Great, okay. We all have to go fishing. I don't want to get these rules done.
Yeah, next meeting, I'll probably try to make a point of standing up and taking some photos just of the meeting itself would be great.
And we keep thinking when we go testify in front of the legislature, we ought to.
Yep.
Sorry.
So on your report, your annual? Or
Oh, no, on testimony, like for the bill, like in support of the Wabanaki Studies Bill or LD 999. Yeah, actually, Rachel, I think you're gonna have to share that last, because I needed to ask you about meeting dates. Trying to establish.
Oh, yeah.
those.
Share that screen. Yep.
Good.
Can everyone see that okay?
And now,
Maybe, you do a full screen view maybe on your end?
See.
Oh, yeah.
Whoops.
What's the address?
Ah, there we go.
I don't know.
there you go.
I meant, it maybe went whole page is kind of what I was talking about.
Mm-hmm. Maybe this. I'm struggling to get it.
That's okay, we can see it.
Okay.
July 17th, Abbey Museum, Dawnland Festival, July 10 and 11. So we moved it to the 17th. I remember it.
So one of the questions was, we were wondering if you would consider going to quarterly meetings instead of bi-monthly meetings. Because these meetings take about 4 days to get ready for and to do the work and so on, as 4 days that I'm not in the office doing the actual work. And so I guess I was just wondering if that was of interest.
And do we have bylaws guiding that as well?
I don't think so. But
versus how many days do you think it's gonna take to prepare on a quarterly basis?
I think about the same, because it's the same,
Oh.
you know, because it means generating the reports, pulling everything together.
Would you not
Going
think
shopping for
that
lunch?
we should be meeting more frequently during the legislative session? Which is the first 2 quarters of the year?
Sure, well, what we had done in the past is we used to have a legislative committee that would meet independent of the bigger commission and talk about those bills that are coming up, and everybody was invited to attend, but we think we had somebody that was chairing that, was Ezekiel?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of heading that up, and Darren Ranko was on there, I sat on it, and everyone was welcome to attend, but you didn't have to, and then they would report back at the meeting.
Okay.
And at the next meeting, I'll have the bylaw written up so that you can see how that works, because that committee is part of that.
Pardon me?
That committee is part of that process for the new bylaw.
Okay.
I don't see a minimum meeting requirement here. And I talked to the Permanent Commission on Indigenous and Racial and Tribal Populations, and that commission meets quarterly. And then they have committees that will meet periodically.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to it, and I would say that, you know, if we went that route, and if there was something imminent that we knew about, I think we need like a week to
Yep,
do
7
a meeting.
days.
We could call a meeting.
If you want to wait to vote on it till.
We could call one today, well, not today, but
So the next meeting,
Is,
17th?
yes.
and it's gonna be, Rachel, you didn't hear because the vice chief was here, and she said they're interested in holding it on their reservation.
reserve,
Yeah, and they've got maybe a council room.
Oh, wonderful. That's great.
Oh, yeah, I have her email, I'll send that out to everyone.
So do you want to decide schedule today, whether you bi-monthly or quarterly, or do you want to wait till next meeting?
Well, what's our people's thoughts in terms of like quarterly versus?
What are the quarterly dates?
Scroll down, Rachel.
Rachel Bell?
Sorry, the quarterly. Okay, can you see them now?
Okay. And it should be July 17th. No, is that 2026?
When's your year end though? June?
Yeah. So yeah, that's correct.
So then you'd have to report on your year end, but possibly on July 10th,
Right.
right?
No? No preference?
No issue.
Ma'am? Hey, she comes to board like this. Bob Checkaway.
Yeah, we're never going to be able to meet frequently enough to answer all the really urgent questions that come up. So I don't know that it matters that much whether we have formal meetings scheduled every 2 months or every 3 months. We're going to have to resort to emergencies or the legislative committee format anyway.
Correct, yes.
And on the bottom there, that actually the quarterly schedule should be July 17th, not July 10th.
Yeah, because that other thing in Abbey will happen every year, probably. Dawn, that's. Just like. So, what do you need?
I think that's it. I appreciate that so much.
I mean, if we need to meet, we've done it before.
Yeah. July 6th and July 10th, I mean, January 6th,
Yeah.
January 10th.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Whatever we need to do.
Yeah, especially those two big bills that are coming up next session.
so you want a motion to adopt a quarterly schedule?
I think so.
Okay. I'll entertain that motion. Joseph motions that we move to quarterly schedule.
I'll second.
Sam has a second. Further discussion? Nope. Bob Checkaway,
I vote yes.
Darren Rico? Absent? No?
Yes.
Rena? Joseph? Sam?
Yes.
Noel? Yes. Motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
May
Right on.
I ask, when's our next meeting?
2026, Bob.
July 17th.
I think it's actually July 18th is what I currently, that's what's on the agenda.
Did you just change it?
Yeah, should be, no, that's just 2025. That's the 2026.
Oh, okay.
schedule,
Geez,
yeah.
I gotta go back to my phone.
So our meeting this year is July 18th.
Right, yes.
That's what I'm looking for. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, thank
I just have a clarifying question. So if we shift to quarterly, is that not beginning until 2026? And so we would still have 3 more meetings this year?
Should there be an October meeting?
I think currently we have a July, and then we have a September, and then we have a November.
I think we could make it so in terms of this shift to September.
So skip the July and shift to September? No, okay.
No. July stays, September would be the next. Oh, wait, sorry. Skip, yeah, July stays, then we would move to October, sorry.
Only problem is I'm having hand surgery.
Or could we just keep the November date we have, but just skip the September? So we'd keep the July date we have and the November date.
Okay, you got it.
That works.
Keep us straight.
And I miss you, Rachel.
I miss being there, I really do. It won't be bad to skip September, really, because like we are very busy that month with Common Ground. So I think of all the meetings,
booths, I have
it's a busy month.
You get to meet a lot of people and they're just shocked at what they don't know.
the outdoor. That doesn't shock me.
Although the Portland's kids, they know more. That's what we learned. And they're a lot of fun. Because they've had that. We've actually been implementing the curriculum, so it makes a difference. I should get, you have to figure out how to do more effective testimony for that, if that has to come up again.
Newell, before we adjourn,
Yeah.
a special recognition to Pat and Rachel and Jill for the work they're doing with the financial business. I mean, that sounds much harder than anything we do.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Robert. I concur. And not only that, all the other work that they do as well.
Here, here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
They're basically doing everything I would hate to do.
You know. Hey, my term's up in January.
I don't think so.
I think they just adjourned, didn't they?
Oh,
Oh,
that's
is that what happened?
it's weird because I hit stop share of my screen and then at the same time they disappeared, which seems like
Anyway,
a coincidence, I think, because I don't
I
think
didn't hear adjourn. That's why I. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, you two really doing great. The rest of us are just sitting around gabbing.
Well, I guess they adjourned. That seemed really abrupt.
Well, I'll move to adjourn.
Did we get an answer? Did you get an answer about them rescheduling the meeting?
I think so. Like for this year, I think we're shifting to quarterly, and this year we're going to skip September.
September. Okay.
That's good because I told Jill I wasn't going to be able to make September 12, which had been scheduled. So another
yeah, so we wouldn't have had a quorum anyway.
Another problem mooted.
So is it jumping to November or moving to October?
It's going to stay November because that's
November.
we already
Okay,
had that date.
that's great. Okay.